Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Sebring International Raceway, a former airport converted to a racecourse and home to the most legendary sports car racing in the U.S. This grueling track is a very difficult mix of short and long straightaways leading to both low and high-speed sweeping corners, and of course, the famous Sebring bumps. Tonight, the JP Alfonso GT3 series takes to Sebring International Raceway for 60 minutes of action with 2 mandatory pit stops for the drivers. My name is Joey Atterbury, and I am thrilled to be joined in the booth by professional road racing strategist and spotter Trevor McClure, Joe White producing, and cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Trevor, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your experience here at Sebring as these cars have officially ended qualifying and are going to be rolling off on the pace laps here soon?
Yeah, I've spent quite a lot of time in Sebring and spent a lot of time high above Sebring. If you've been to the 12 hours or watched on TV for the last few years, you may have noticed a bunch of 5-story scissor lifts at turn 1. That's for the spotters, and that's where I have, up until this year, parked my tuchus, as they say, for the 12 hours of Sebring, trying to get the drivers to negotiate not only the bumps, but the traffic and avoid disaster. This 3.7 mile circuit, disaster is the name of the game. It is opened in 1970, and most of the surface is still original concrete poured from World War II. This place served as a airstrip for training for not only American airplanes and pilots, but also allies from UK and various other countries. So there's a lot of storied history here, not just as a racetrack, but also as hallowed ground historically. Really immense track, known for its bumps. Respect the bumps is the tagline, as is the birthplace of American endurance racing, and also the site of the first United States Grand Prix in Formula One history that was won by none other than Bruce McLaren.
That's an interesting little tidbit. That's a cool piece of history, and it is a real piece of history in terms of U.S. sports car racing. It looks like we're going to get a full pace lap here around this Sebring International Raceway, and we're going to take a look at the qualifying grid right now on your screen. Looks like pole position is going to go to that number 996 JP Alfonso car, and that is actually our sponsor of the event. So good lap out there, JP. Proud of you. And then following him on that same front row is Jose Puig over there. Then in third place, Juan Salazar, followed by Nick Sorensen. In the top 5 is Kerry Cantera. 6th place, Daniel Ott, followed by Alan Brose. Kyle Edgar, Philip Forrester, and Stephen Knight round out the top 10, Trevor.
We've got third place finisher from the last round, Mark Royce, Evan Ayres, Eric Bergdorf, Keith Frazier, Marvin Deggy, Jason Hurdle, John Barry II, John Knapp II, Eddie Cox rounding out our top 19.
Yeah, and then we do have a couple more there. William Kaiser in 20th, Connor Webb, and Don York rounding out what looks to be 22 cars here at the Sebring International Raceway. And before we get going, these cars will go out on a full pace lap out here. Want to give a shout out to tonight's title sponsor, JP Alfonso Studios. They are a tattoo shop in Norcross, Georgia. If you are interested in getting some ink done, I know Trevor's always interested in getting ink done. Go to www.jpalfonsostudios.com and you can check out their work and also maybe even book something for yourself. What do you think, Trevor? You want to get something?
Oh, I don't know. There's some things we can touch on because I have a good friend with a very good inside joke from the paddock, Mr. Ryan Eversley, an Atlanta boy, not far from Norcross. But I'll keep that one to ourselves. But you never know. We might show up at JP's place one night after celebratory day at the track.
Well, keep that option open, and hey, make sure to book it before you go there. Also, want to say a shout out to Tam Livery and also Hot Rod Setups here joining us tonight for the JP Alfonso GT3 series. We mentioned it a little bit earlier in the pre-race show. This is a 60-minute race tonight. It's a mandatory 2 pit stops. They don't have to take tires on both pit stops, but they do have to take tires on one of the 2 pit stops. So we'll see if any of the strategy comes into play with cars that maybe take tires on the first pit stop versus tires on the second pit stop. And Trevor, one other thing to note out here, all of these GT3 cars are running 40% fuel load. So they're running a pretty minimal tank, which means that's why they have to stop twice in 60 minutes.
And that's the kind of thing that I like, is throwing the wrench in the works, as you say, because these cars can easily go an hour the real world on a tank of fuel, no problem. So I really appreciate the fact that these guys have to do some thinking about what they're doing, not just on track, but in pit lane. Keeps things nice and interesting here, I think.
Well, and something to touch on here, because we're only about halfway around this pace lap. Trevor, you come from the real world of racing, as do I, and you're a real world strategist, not just a spotter, but a strategist. Now, here in the virtual world, all of these competitors, they're out there having to do it themselves. They don't have the aid of having somebody like you on the pit box helping to do all of that math, and that definitely comes into play with the strategy we see here in the sim races.
That's right, and like everybody from the real world of racing, I am always for hire. So if you guys need somebody in your ear, give me a shout and fill up that bank account. But no, absolutely. These guys, they've got to, they can either fly by the seat of their pants, which I assume a fair number of them are, but the smart ones would have made a plan beforehand. And I think the key to this one's going to be a tire degradation. We don't see a lot of it in iRacing as we do in the real world. I think guys who are going to win are the guys who get out in front, the most efficient pit stops, but possibly save the fresher tires for the end of it if they're in the hunt. And if they're not, the guys might take a short first pit stop, maybe take tires then and try to do a short stop and kind of do an undercut there towards the end to gain some track position. But we'll see how it goes here.
Yeah, we're going to see how it goes, definitely. And these cars are going down the back straight right now. It's a pretty long back straightaway. We'll probably see some moves into the famous turn 17, which the pace car is about to enter here. We see the entry cones, the brake marker cones there on the left side. But that means we are about to go racing for 60 minutes here at Sebring International Raceway. This is the 996 car. Your pole sitter, JP Alfonso, in that Porsche. He is going to lead this field 2 by 2 down to the stripe where Barney is waiting with that green flag. And we've got a green flag on the racetrack. Alfonso immediately jumps over driver's right to cut off any impending charge. That's going to leave the door open for Juan Salazar and the rest of the field to go through turn 1 and through the bumps the first time. Looks pretty clean for the most part. Maybe a spin a little bit further back, a little bit of dust. But Trevor, if you ask me, pretty clean through Sebring turn 1, 2, and 3. Yeah,
that's pretty remarkable there. We had a couple 2-offs and 4-offs though. Nothing big in the walls, but really Alfonso, super aggressive move there. First steal, but I think it slowed him down because it put Juan Salazar right on his bumper going into 7, and that's the guy he's really got to look out for, because Salazar is the guy who beat him through the checkered flag last race. So this will be an interesting little battle for first place we'll have to keep our eyes on.
Yeah, we'll have to keep our eyes on the entire field right now. We're only halfway through lap 1 here at Sebring. The cars are just starting to get up to temperature right now. Might see a few of them dance a little bit, maybe run a little bit wide as they're all trying to search and find for the grip over this really bumpy, old asphalt track like you mentioned, Trevor. And tire warm-up is crucial here at Sebring to get the speed and start to run away. And what we see right now is 2 cars really lead kind of maybe this train of 4, but look at Alfonso get wide up over the bumps. That's going to compromise his run out onto the back straight and give an opportunity to that Ferrari of Juan Salazar. He's tucked up into the draft right now. He pokes out drivers right, and Trevor, you know as well as I do, this looks like to be a pass for the lead.
Yeah, you can't give anything up on the Ullman straight there. It's just too long. If you make a mistake there in 16, You're a sitting duck. It's really no contest. There's nothing you can do here, and we almost see Alfonso now falling into the clutches of Jose Puig and Kerry Cantera. So he's not doing himself any favors there. He's really got to keep it on the straight and narrow. We got cars going 4 different lines through Sebring turn 1, and that's the cool thing about this place is, you see all these cars. As we have a spin, the leader, or former leader, JP Alfonso, has spun turn 3 entry.
Yeah, it certainly looks like JP Alfonso has gone around, but he keeps it pointed the right direction right now. He's got Alan Bros in that Ferrari, going to try to take it too wide. He's going to cover him off. Alan's going to take it down the inside here. Late braking move from the Ferrari. Looks like JP is going to cover him off. Going to hold on to that 4th place position for the number 996 car, but he's got some work to do to crawl his way back up to where he was before.
That's absolutely right. His work is cut out for him too, and it looks like that train of 5 cars that are nose to tail behind that much slower. So if he continues to make mistakes, he could find himself soon outside of the top 10. He runs wide here yet again, opening the door for Alan Bros.
He is opening the door, but I think we're just trying to get all of our logos squared away here in the broadcast, and I know that we're working on everything, and looks like Juan Salazar right now in that Ferrari, this kind of, what would you call it, Trevor? Teal and black? Is that what I'm calling it, right?
That's it, teal and black.
Teal and black Ferrari out front right now, leading the number 8 car of Jose Puig right now, and then 3rd place Kerry Cantera in that 333. There's a few battles a little bit further back, but really, Trevor, for the most part, I'm pretty impressed with this field right now. A lot of sportsmanship being shown and not a lot of cars being turned around, which is so easy to do here at Sebring.
Absolutely, and especially at a place with such wide turns like 1 and like 17 that are inviting, and it's easy to take 15 different lines through them and feel like you're doing it right. As we saw the previous lap, the top 4 did 4 different lines through turn 1. But it's so tricky, and you can just give up so much there and not even realize it until the guy's driving by you into 7 or 17. As we're seeing here, we've kind of settled out. Everybody's kind of single file now, not too drastic of battles, but one misstep, one bump too many in a lap, and you can sink pretty quickly here.
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a look back at the number 50 car, Mark Royce. He is currently in 9th place out there. I mention him because he was on the podium the last round out, and he finds himself all the way back in 9th place right now. And Trevor, you can talk to me a little bit from a strategist point of view. When you were on the podium last round, you find yourself kind of buried in the top 10, but he's going to make actually a pretty aggressive move right now, try to take it too wide around the outside of Daniel Ott. But what is it going to take to get that visor down and to get up to the front of the race when you find yourself buried in traffic so early?
Well, I do have to correct you quickly. That was Kerry Cantera that Mark Royce passed, our P3 going into this lap. So they've had an issue there at the turn 8, turn 9 area. That left the door open for Mark Royce to just drive right by. But looking back as quickly as I could and keeping my eyes on Mark during practice and qualifying, it doesn't look like he's got pace you'd expect from somebody who finished on the podium, but seems to be really sensible here. He's not making mistakes. He's biding his time, and he's now qualified 11th, I believe, and he finds himself up to 8th. That's just 3 laps into the race, so 1 car per lap, and he's going to be up front sooner than later. And I think he's a smart guy that doesn't have necessarily outright raw pace, but when you're running endurance races like this, oftentimes it's not the fastest guy that wins, it's the smartest.
And endurance races, you might not think about 60 minutes as an endurance race, but in the sim world, a lot of these races are 20 minutes, 40 minutes, and 60 minutes is just long enough that you can't just go out there, run qualifying laps. You actually have to go out there, settle into a groove, and just hit your marks lap after lap after lap. And it feels a little bit like an endurance race at the end of it. But Trevor, you as well as I know that current endurance racing, at least worldwide, I know for sure in North America, has turned into sprint racing. It just has a longer time limit.
It's daunting. It's nerve-wracking. You can't relax anymore. You've really just got to be pedal to the metal. I mean, you have to be sensible about your equipment, things like that. But yeah, certainly, I mean, if you look at the pace of previous races, especially like in the DPI class, where it's like the top-level prototype guys in the world in top-level machinery, and they are just banging around the 12 hours of Sebring at a fever pitch just the entire time, and you can't take it easy in your equipment. But I think that also speaks highly of the level of equipment that we have now. It's very rare to break things so long as you're doing everything you're supposed to behind the wheel, even at a place like Sebring. You know, we don't have the historic breakdowns like we do in years past from a place like this. And you know, this is a track where Audi, in their absolute dominance of the 24-hour Le Mans and the LMP1 category for so many years, would come to Sebring to test their cars voluntarily for 24 hours, because 24 hours at Sebring is 48 hours at any other racetrack in the world in terms of wear and tear on your equipment. So, you know, it's remarkable now what we can do, but you're right, it's just an absolute sprint race, no matter how long it is, 60 minutes to 24 hours. It's a sprint these days.
We are currently working lap 5 and looking right now, riding on board with the number 8 car of Jose Puig out there. He's in this Ferrari. Get a good shot of Jose right there. He is closed up on our leader, Juan Salazar. This is Jose Puig right there in that red and black Ray-Ban themed Ferrari. But last lap time, second place runner 58.3, our leader 58.7. So this lead battle is definitely starting to heat up right now. It seems like our second place car has a little bit more speed. And something else to note, the third place car of JP Alfonso 158.2, even faster than both of these lead cars. So that Porsche, I expect, is gonna come into play here probably by start finish, if not the end of next lap here. As we see, we got all three cars on one screen, but Jose Puig in that Ferrari, that red and black Ferrari, I've got my eye on him. See if he can make a move, get around our leader, and maybe take control of this race.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting to see. We've got 3 Ferraris in the top 5. The other 2 are Porsches. I mean, Porsches have been categorically strong as of late in iRacing, so it's interesting to see 2 Ferraris kind of leading the way, and hopefully follow their Formula One compatriots and booch the strategy here big time. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And from a strategy point, you know, Jose doesn't have to be first right now. He can just hang out on the bumper of Juan Salazar and stay there. I mean, it really isn't that hard to make up 0.3 of a second in pit lane if you're smart about it. Especially if you're on top of your fuel numbers, you know exactly how much you need to get yourself to the end of the race. You can take a little bit less fuel and, you know, not have that ballast weight at the end and get that track position. But really just hanging onto the bumper here for the moment, 11 minutes into a 60-minute race, is probably the best option for Jose. Although you did make the mention that JP Alfonso is on a tear and he's recovering from that previous mistake. He's about as far behind Jose as Jose is Juan. So this will be a 3-way battle by next lap, because I assume that Porsche is going to get a really nice tow down the Ullman straight here.
I think that Porsche will get in the slipstream down the back straightaway this time, but something to note, Jose Puig got a really good run out of the back straightaway last time, but look at the Porsche really close up over the bumps. Maybe not so dominant on the straightaway, but really through that technical S section, that Porsche closed in dramatically on these front 2 Ferraris right now, and doesn't look like Jose's within distance to make a move here on our leader this lap. You're right, Trevor. It looks like the Porsche might be the fastest out of the three as they both just barely touched the grass out there. Not a very updated Sebring, as we have concrete now all the way to the wall out there.
Yeah, a little bit extra track out. Help you hit the wall a little bit harder if you make a mistake. But yeah, you're absolutely right. He's driving really well after that mistake. He smells blood in the water. He's getting himself right into this fight. And you make a very good point. That twisty section, you have the expectation that the Porsche is going to be the car to have through that. And you see the Italian horsepower make the difference on the straightaways. So hear what Alfonso does, but I suspect he understands at this point he's not going to be able to make his move into turn 17 without an absolute dive bomb. He'll have to do it early in this twisty section here, which we're really getting into. I mean, he'll have a good shot at 7 if he takes the 3-4-5 complex really well. He's got a couple opportunities here going through 8, 9, 10, setting up a pass late into 13, even after the kink into 15, 16. And if he is knocking on the bumper of the Ferrari in front of him going through 16, he might have the grace of the slipstream to make up for all that Italian horsepower.
One thing I'm noticing, though, is coming from a driver's perspective, the second place Ferrari was really able to apply pressure to our leader earlier in the race, and it seems like he is now almost stuck in that half-second 0.6, 0.7 gap where it is so difficult to start to make up the time, and it almost seems like you're just stuck in the tire tracks of the car in front of you. And when you start to have that tire wear on your own car, it actually gets more and more difficult to pass that car in front of you the longer you stay behind it. Now, the difference would be is if you do have that pace advantage and you're able to save fuel being in the slipstream and whatnot, but I'm not really seeing that out of our second place runner right now. It seems like he is almost stuck half second back right now, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, but looking at the sector times and lap times, it looks to me like he's driving to a number. He's just hanging out there. I mean, last lap for Salazar, our leader, 58.662. Jose's last lap was a 58.688. So we're talking 18 thousandths of a second or so difference in those two, and you know that's not really a drastic. I wouldn't be hitting the panic button and conceding the win of the race at this stage, just on that pace difference alone. And see, they're actually pulling away, though, interestingly enough, from Alfonso. That gap is widened. So Jose really doesn't seem to be cracking on any pressure from behind him, and I think he's staying in the tracks of Salazar's car, not because that's all he can do, but because he can. And I think that's a sensible thing, as we might have a spot of traffic here already.
Yeah, looks like a little bit of a lapped car is going to be in the way of our leader, but smartly pulls off driver's right, lets 2 cars by. Looks like he's going to let all 3 of these leaders by here. Great heads up driving right there to know that the leaders are coming through. Justin Knapp out there in that white and black Ferrari. Good sportsmanship. And once again, going down the back straightaway, looks like each one of these cars is just at a little bit of a distance, enough to not make a move. He tries to take a look, maybe fake him out a little bit into missing a brake marker, but not quite close enough to make a lunge. And Trevor, one of the names that we talked about a little bit ago was Mark Royce. I noticed he had made his way up to the 6th or 7th place position, but a few laps ago he had a mistake all by himself and now finds himself buried back into 11th.
He didn't respect those bumps. It wasn't that big of a mistake, I don't believe, because he only finds himself about a second and a half off of P7. So must have just been a little quick, easy off, or
it was
a tank slapper.
Yeah, I caught it, and it was just almost a half spin. Didn't make any contact into the wall. It was just one of those where lost all of the momentum and, more importantly, track position, as you see all of these cars now lined up in front of him.
Yeah, certainly it's not what he wanted to do. He's going to now have his work cut out for him, trying to pass all these cars again. But as you can see here, coming through our camera here at turn 7, there a ton of cars, pretty well nose to tail. I mean, it's 3 to 4 seconds between Mark Royce and 5th place. So again, any mistake here, any misstep, or even just a slight bit of better driving or strategy, he could find himself all of a sudden from 11th to 5th.
Yeah, I want to jump up to that 5th place position right now, actually. We've got Alan Bros battling it out with Daniel Ott right now on the racetrack. Actually, Daniel's going to go around the he's going to go around the outside there in that Audi. That's the number 62 going around the Ferrari. A little bit of lap traffic there, but you called it, Trevor. Bad exit from the Ferrari.
Yeah, it looked like Alan Bros just dropped a couple of wheels off there at 11 or 12, I believe.
There's so many turns. Who knows?
Yeah, I haven't ever spotted on the back section of the track, and my radio from pit lane doesn't reach that section of the track, so it's dead to me. I know Green Park is out there somewhere, and that's a riot during the 12-hour weekends, but yeah, past 7, that's just like dead space to me. I've barely ever been out there myself. But it's certainly a critical portion of the track. In real life, you have a lot of DPI and GT traffic getting lapped. Those very tight corners, and if you're looking after your driver, they can be surprised by a prototype in a GT car, as we're watching here, rather quickly, and it can end in tears there on the back section. But yeah, it's really easy to drop wheels off here, Joey. As you know, you've been around this place. It is not the easiest place to drive perfectly.
It is not easy to drive perfectly, and trust me, everyone, just when you think you've got a grip on it, it throws a new bump your way. Another great battle on the racetrack is that 87 in 7th place right now. He is currently fending off Kerry Cantera, but not only Kerry, but look at this. We've got a train of Lamborghini, Mercedes, and then Mark Royce slowly but surely trying to reel in this gaggle of 4 cars right now. That's Arvin Sadigi out front, Kerry Cantera, Kevin Ayers, and Stephen Knight here before we get up to Mark Royce. And this is a pretty good battle, Trevor. We talk about the GT3 class being so mixed with diversity in manufacturers, and I think this gaggle of cars is proof of it right here.
Absolutely. We've got just about one of everything here, so really interesting to see how these do it. And like we were saying earlier, with the Porsches and the Ferraris, they all have their strengths and weaknesses.
We've got, sorry to interrupt you, Trevor, we've got pit stops going on right now. Our 3 leaders all came down pit road. This is going to be the first of their 2 mandatory stops. I'm curious to see if any of these 3 cars decides to take the tires now, or they're going to wait to the second stop to take the tires.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting choice. Me, I would be inclined to do it at the end, because the tires are only 20 minutes old here, and we've seen the wear factor with iRacing is not anywhere close to where it is in real life. There is still an advantage to tires, and so as long as this thing stays green, I would just take fuel now, keep my hot tires on, haul ass, and try to get much of a gap open as I can, then negate any disadvantage I would have from taking the tires late. And with all these guys hitting pit road right at the 40-minute mark, it looks like they're just splitting this up into 3 20-minute races for the pit stops.
Interesting to note, Trevor, it looks like we've got a mixed bag on strategy. I saw JP Alfonso not take tires. Remember, that was the 3rd place car in the running order, and I'm not sure what happened. I'm not sure if this is just something we're seeing, but I see a ton of front-end damage here on this Porsche, and I'm not sure if that is representative of what actually happened, or if it's just kind of a netcode issue that we're seeing on the screen right now. But that was our 3rd place car, now going to be our current leader, and then our other runners, Juan and Jose, they both decided to take tires this stop, so they won't take tires that next stop.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, there's quite a little gap that JP has gifted himself here, but as you said, he's going to have to take tires next time. But that gap is not as big as I expected. I wonder if any of those guys decided to take 2 tires, stop, and another 2 tires at another. It's kind of a strange strategy. I think it.
Yeah, and Trevor, I'm sorry to interrupt you there. I know that this is a story. JP Alfonso got that damage going into pit lane.
Interesting.
He rear-ended that car in front of him in P2, and he did not take the time penalty to get it fixed. He decided to continue on. We're going to have to watch those lap times here. It actually looks like we're going to get a little bit of replay on the screen. So this is pre-pit stop, Trevor. And talk us through what a spotter would be telling your driver right now.
At this point, you're reminding them they're coming to the box. You would be reiterating what service you're doing. You're reminding them not to speed on pit lane. Basically, clear entry with the exception of the 2 cars in front. That's something that they would know anyway, but you kind of just tell them to remind them. Let's see what happens here. Oh, really, really deep on the brakes. That was overly optimistic, I think, in my opinion. But the good news for Alfonso is he now weighs significantly less than he did when he came into the pit lane. So we'll see if this plays out for him.
You always got to look at the bright side of things on the racetrack. It doesn't always fall your way, but we'll keep an eye on the lap times as they start to roll in and these pit stop cycles start to really just kind of fall into place out here. Right now, we've got our leader, JP Alfonso, on screen with that heavy front end damage from coming into pit lane. Second place runner is the 62 of Daniel Ott. That's the Audi that we saw make that really good move around the Ferrari a little bit earlier. He also did not take tires in that pit stop, so he finds himself there in second place. The third car that did not did not take tires is Kerry Canter here, the 333 in this green and black Lamborghini. Pretty sharp looking car out there, and man, if I had a Muppet driving, it might be easier than dealing with an actual driver, isn't it?
You're asking the wrong person about the difference between drivers and Muppets. But that's an interesting avatar. But hometown Toronto, that's not too far from where I am currently. So they're staying warm out there. Yeah, we've got some interesting things going on because, you know, if I were a mid-packer and didn't have pace to win this thing outright, I would be trying some funky things. And I think with 40% capacity, got the ability to go a little further than 20 minutes here, and it looks like these guys are doing just that. They're trying to break this race up into 3 20-minute segments. We've got a couple that haven't yet stopped, and it could be a little dark horse here because it can go and do a full stop and then have a very, very short second stop, just going to limit their time on pit lane. They could gain quite an advantage on time over these guys who are just doing sort of the status quo thing. In terms of time on pit lane, the number we have to think about is 20. 20 seconds appears to be the difference between fuel only, fuel with tires. That was the exact difference between Alfonso's stop and Juan Salazar. Gap to Alfonso and Salazar is now down to 15.6 seconds, and a lot of that was attributed to a phenomenal outlap from Juan Salazar and one that was lacking from JP Alfonso. Salazar took about 3 seconds out of that 20-second advantage on the outlap alone, and that's not what Alonso is going to want to see.
Yeah, in-laps and out-laps are very crucial in racing. We always think about lap time in terms of just how fast you can go, but the in and out of pit lane can be huge in terms of seconds, and that equals track position out on the racetrack. And I know we're looking here at Juan Salazar. I want to shift the camera back one position back here to John Barry. He is currently, Kyle Edgar is in the battle with Jose Puch right now. and this is the 47 white and black Ferrari. He finds himself in between these two cars that were battling it out for the lead, and let me tell you, Jose Puig has really been trying to find a way around this other Ferrari, and they're heading down the front straight right now, tucked up in the back of the slipstream, around turn one more time. We see Kyle Edgar run a little bit wide. This is going to open the door, take a big defensive line from Kyle Edgar. Around the outside goes Jose, two wheels in the grass. That's not going to work this time, and Kyle Edgar is putting up a really big defense, but once again, here comes Jose Puig with a run coming down into the famous hairpin down in here. This is going to be a heavy brake zone. Once again, the sim racing defensive line out of the number 47 white and black Ferrari, and Jose looks to be just charging it in there a little bit too fast. If I could get on the radio, I would say, hey, fake him out a little bit, do an over-under, and you'll be right by him.
That's it, and Edgar knows that he doesn't have the pace to keep Jose behind him, so he's pulling out every trick in the book, and that's not going to please Jose here as we watch that gap just opens up, closes right back down. I think at this point, if I were on Jose's radio, I'd tell him to bide his time, set him up in 16, and just drive right by him with no risk on the back straight into 17. And he needs to do that now because he is hemorrhaging time to Juan Salazar. That gap is now over 3 seconds, and he's going to have to earn that every tenth of that back once he gets around Kyle Edgar here.
Something else that I'm noticing, Trevor, is the back of this number 8 Ferrari does have damage both on the right side, looks like the right quarter panel, as well as the rear bumper all the way around the back end of this Ferrari. Now, the iRacing damage model is a little bit different than how it is in real life, but if you see damage, that means it is going to be affecting that car, whether how it drives, its lap time, top speed, cornering grip. It's going to have a negative effect somewhere out there every single lap.
That's really unfortunate because that was an incident that Jose had no responsibility in and no way to prevent. He was just an innocent bystander there. So the adverse effect there is really going to hit him where it hurts because he really had the ability to take it to Juan Salazar, who at the moment, looking at the lap charts and in terms of pit stop fulfillments and requirements, I think he's still sitting in the catbird seat here. The gap now down to Alfonso, who still has a 20-second tire change in front of him. It's now 14 and a half seconds, excuse me. So it's coming down lap after lap, and there's a possibility that Salazar might catch up to Alfonso even before they hit pit lane for the second time.
We'll have to keep an eye on that, and you're right, our leader, JP Alfonso, just to let everybody know, it's still Alfonso, Ott, and Cantera, your top three currently. There's about 6 seconds separating each of those top three runners, so no battles going on between those three, but Juan Salazar and JP Alfonso and Jose Puig, those were the three front runners as Jose takes another look down the inside of this 47. Sorry to be jumping around right here, but Jose Puig really needs to find a way around Kyle Edgar in order to salvage his race, but JP Alfonso lap time 159.5 compared to Juan Salazar 158.7. So Trevor, to your point, Juan Salazar continues to essentially put distance between him and Alfonso once the pit stop cycles and tires equal out.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And he continues to put distance on Jose behind him, who's in this battle with Kyle Edgar with the rear end damage. I think Juan's just got to be smart here and driving the pace he's driving, but not take any risk and just bring this thing home. I don't see him being under any threat here unless Jose gets around Kyle Edgar and starts just bring down lap times, because maybe his car is a bit lighter than it was when it came into pit lane as well.
It could be, but I tell you what, he's staying pretty aggressive right now on the racetrack. I want to stay right here following this number 8 car because you look and it's starting to wag the tail a little bit, really starting to be more aggressive out there. And once again, the 47 takes that defensive line and Jose tries to once again go around the outside, but I gotta say, the outside line is not gonna work. What you're gonna have to do is bait him into that defensive line where you can go over, under on Kyle Edgar and put yourself in a good position. He's gonna try a really late braking move. This is gonna end up in contact with both of the Ferraris going off the track. Jose Puchka is gonna actually get the worst of this, and Kyle Edgar is up on track in front of him right now. We're gonna get a replay. Trevor, did you catch this ultra late braking move?
Oh yeah, I saw it from the sky as well. Jose sees Edgar drop those wheels in the exit of 7 after taking the defensive line. He's got to run here. Naturally, anyone's going to look at that. As you see, Edgar crosses track twice. That's a borderline questionable 2 moves there, but I think the braking late into that corner is more questionable. So we see Jose finally got so frustrated and just threw a desperation move in there, and rightly so. I mean, you could see that very clearly had a stronger car, but one chink in his armor was he couldn't get power down out of 16 as well as Edgar can, and that was the only thing that was saving him. No matter what he did, the other 16 turns on the course, Kyle had the superior exit for the longest straight. That built him the cushion to keep Jose behind him, and I think 1 or 2 more laps Jose would have had it without contact, but you know, that's a couple of guys going after it with very, very different attitudes, very different pace, and trying to occupy the same space, and it never works.
You know, and I could speak on both sides of that battle because I know exactly how it feels to be stuck behind a car. And it's not Kyle Edgar's fault. Kyle Edgar was doing everything that he wanted to do in terms of a defense on the racetrack. And we're still actually watching this battle between John Barry, Kyle Edgar, and Nick Sorensen. This is 5th, 6th, and 7th on your screen between the Porsche Ferrari Porsche sandwich, if you will. But I'll also say this, coming from the real world of racing and having a lot of track time out there, there's a lot that you can learn from other cars on the racetrack, even if they are faster than you. And I think something that we see a lot in sim racing is the blocking. There's blocking that happens in real life racing, but here in the virtual world, it seems like blocking happens every single corner on every single lap if there's a threat for the position. And when I see that happen, when I'm a driver, what I think of is, you know, there's actually more to learn. If you see a car that's faster, as Kyle Edgar, oh no, he's going to have a big wiggle off of that corner, turn 16. He's lucky to save it. This is actually going to open the door for Nick Sorensen around the outside, going to carry the momentum. See if they're going to take it too wide into 17. No, Kyle Edgar smartly relinquishes that position. But Trevor, to get back to the virtual world, I find that blocking, oh no, the dominoes for Kyle Edgar just continue to fall out there.
Yeah, it's really black and white that he's struggling out there, and he's tagged the wall very lightly there at 17. So maybe that's no harm, no foul. But at the same time, you can see he's made 2 mistakes in 2 consecutive corners, and that's exactly what Jose would have wanted to see 2 laps earlier. And we'll see if he can bounce back here. But Edgar was hanging tough, but I think he's just maybe leaned on his equipment and relied on it too much to compensate for the pace difference with Jose the laps earlier, and maybe that's just caught up to him as we have Sorensen and Barry nose to tail here out front into turn 7. This is going to get a little exciting. It looks like Sorensen has a little bit of a tribute livery to a one-off livery that Pfaff did at Petit Le Mans, I believe, a couple of years ago. The blue plaid, as we have a very, very easy pass there as Barry just blows the brake marker and lets Sorensen right on through.
I'll have to go back and check to see if Nick Sorensen took tires on that first stop, because he certainly has been one of the more confident cars through this field, and he currently finds himself in the 5th place position. Now, Trevor, you'll have to do a little bit of math for me. If this car took tires and he doesn't have to take tires on this next stop, he's currently behind Juan Salazar in terms of track position. This is going to put him in pretty good shape to even be potentially battling it out with JP Alfonso once the second pit stop cycles come to an end out there. And this is a good podium run potentially from the number 20 Porsche right now.
Yeah, you're right about that. The gap Sorensen has now to Alfonso is currently just under 27 seconds. So he's got to get that down to 20 before the next round of pit stops. He's really got to do it now because that's the advantage in having the new tires is when they're fresh. And of course, Alfonso is going to inherit that advantage once he changes to his new set of tires here. And if these guys are sticking to the 20-20-20 theme, which it looks like most of them are, we should see pit stops here in the next 2, possibly 3 laps.
Well, you are right on the dot because Jose Puig is in pit lane, the first of our second stops right now, and I'm watching. He does not take tires, and one other thing that he does not do is fix the damage on the back end of that Ferrari. He thinks that, you know what, he can hang on given the lap time that he is doing right now, and he's better off just going out there and hoping that he can keep up in terms of lap time with the rest of this field. But Trevor, you mentioned it. I'd keep my eye on the rest of the competitors because it's going to be pit stop time soon, and we've already seen pit stop cycles catch one car out, and that was our leader.
Yeah, that's right. He certainly couldn't take advantage of being off of the strategy that the others were on, and there's arguments made for both sides, and certainly the damage that he has sustained entering pit lane last time by hasn't helped him because I think he's just not able to keep the pace that he was before, missing his hood and having a number of components on the front end damaged. So he's not making the downforce that he needs to be fast around here, and I think that's the real nail in his coffin is just not being able to keep the pace that he had before. And virtue, he's succumbing to Salazar. Actually, for him, the gap back to Sorensen in the 20 car is holding steady at about 27 seconds. So unless Sorensen really turns up the heat or Alfonso has a mistake, doesn't seem to be under threat from Sorensen just yet.
Looks like on screen right now, this is Juan Salazar, the number 1 Ferrari, chasing down the 333 of Kerry Cantera, the Muppet driver out there, hard on the brakes into this hairpin section. Juan Salazar has really been one of the fastest cars in that Ferrari. We'll see if the difference between the green Lamborghini with those yellow wheels out there looking pretty sharp can hold off this Ferrari. We've been talking about the pit stops, and I think that if Juan Salazar is smart right now, he probably should just stay stationed behind this Lamborghini as long as it doesn't hold him up too much. But looks like a little bit of pressure is getting to Kerry Cantera right now. Just needs to hit the marks out there, and probably only another lap or two when he's going to have to come down pit road himself for fuel, and this battle will cycle itself out.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, Salazar should be boxing this time anyway. So he's in such an advantageous position right now. He can afford to lose a second or 2 or 3 behind Cantera, just not take any risk in pit lane, and he can stop to the finish with no risk. I think he's going to breeze to the lead here pretty easily. I do like the decision on Jose to come in earlier. I would have done it even earlier, as we see Kerry Cantera duck in, and our in my book, the virtual leader of Salazar stays out. Also have Daniel Ott in the 62 in. Sorensen, Edgar, Barry, Bros, Ayers, and Knight out of the top 10 stay out. Nope, Edgar pops his nose into pit lane as well in the 47 Ferrari.
Yeah, it looks like JP Alfonso does stay out on the racetrack, as well as Juan Salazar, Nick Sorensen as well, and John Barry. They all stay out there, but it was a pretty big gaggle of cars, and right now we're seeing our leader JP Alfonso try to get through some lap traffic, but I tell you what, this is not what he wants to deal with right now. It looks like maybe this car is holding him up just a little bit. He's going to take it down the inside, but they're going to battle too wide. This is not what JP Alfonso wants right now. He needs a clean racetrack to be hitting his marks in order to get his pit stop cycle done. And I really think that might have helped out that Nick Sorensen car, and we'll just have to see what the time delta loss here is this lap for JP Alfonso.
It looks like that cost him about a second and a half, maybe a tick more. But we'll see how that shakes out once they come around, start, finish. But that's certainly not what Alfonso wanted. Like I said, he's got himself in a bad position against Salazar. But Sorensen, there could be a dark horse for that final podium position.
I think he is a dark horse right now, and I know you say it's about 20 seconds for these pit stop deltas right now. I've got my eye on the leader, and it looks like he is coming down pit road right now. We'll see if he gets this thing slowed down. He was very aggressive last time out, but looks like JP Alfonso does manage to get the car slowed all the way down here. Going to be curious to see if he decides to try to fix any of that damage, because if he does, that will end up with a longer pit stop and might open the door for Nick Sorensen, who looks like Trevor is going to do one more lap out on the racetrack.
Well, if he's got clear track, I would do the same thing. I would just take everything I can get and try to milk that advantage as much as I can. That's not a bad move on his part, as it looks like he's got no one ahead or behind him. So he's the owner of the first third of the racetrack at Sebring International Raceway, so he can do what he pleases here. And hopefully he throws down a flying lap, and we get a nice little battle here between him and Alfonso towards the end.
Yeah, and watching Alfonso finally down on the ground, does a nice big burnout and leaves pit lane still with the heavy front end damage. And you know, Nick Sorensen might not be able to leapfrog him in the pit stop cycles, Trevor, but with that continued damage, there will be that pace offset difference, and we might end up getting that battle that we want for our podium finish.
I mean, it's an interesting thing, because Alfonso's last stop was full, so it was almost 37 seconds, and we'll see what Sorensen does here. He might just eke this one out in front of Alfonso. We'll see. Current gap is about 33 seconds on track, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, no, it's some pretty good battles right now. We're just going to be ending our second round of pit stops. This is our leader on the racetrack, the number 20 machine of Nick Sorensen in this Porsche, rounding out of turn 16 out onto the back straightaway. Trevor, I would expect to see this car this time, wouldn't you? Actually, I would expect to see the top three. All three of these cars currently have 10 laps on their fuel stint.
Well, I think if I knew exactly how long these cars could go, it looks like he is coming in nice, tidy, tight line there to 17. But as I was saying, I would take, for Sorensen, I would take it literally as far as I could into the tank before making my final stop. That would shorten up the amount of time I would take to refuel, shorten up the overall pit stop, so that would lose less time, as we see a pair of Pfaff Porsches leaving the pit lane as Sorensen rides slowly into his box. See where he gets out here, but I think we've got some interesting things going on. One of which was someone we've talked about at length, Jose in the number 8 Ferrari. He's on hot tires and absolutely hunting down JP Alfonso, who's on his outlap this time. So there could be some more time loss for Alfonso in his future to keep Sorensen kind of close by at arm's length here for the last 15 minutes.
Looks like Alfonso is going to stay in front of Sorensen, and what I'm also noticing is Jose Puig also just squeezed in front of Sorensen as he was coming out of pit lane exit there. That's going to mean that Porsche is going to have to battle a Ferrari plus a Porsche if he wants that second spot. Current top front runner, the Ferrari number 1, Juan Salazar, as we expected, with a commanding 10-plus second lead, but 996 car number JP Alfonso in second place currently is going to have some heat coming up in the form of Jose Puig and Nick Sorensen.
That's right. I mean, that was a huge chunk that Sorensen took out of Alfonso's lead now. I mean, at one point it was well over 15 seconds, and now it's down to about 3. And if you look, we've got one horse in the race for the lead, but we've got 4 within 4 to 5 seconds of each other here, second place. And I think as these cars, as Jose and Sorensen, Ott and Ayers continue to go and they bring themselves a little closer to Alfonso, they're going to accordion up and they're going to bring themselves closer to each other. The closing stages, we could have some fireworks here with a lot of these cars jockeying for second place, nose to tail.
We could, and you're right, Trevor. That's JP Alfonso in the damaged Porsche, Jose Puig in that red and black Ferrari, Nick Sorensen in the white and blue Porsche, and Daniel Ott in the gray and orange and black Audi. These are all 4 positions, and really second and third, our 2 podium finishers are up for grabs between these 4 cars right now. And with the heavy damage on the Porsche, we'll see what the lap times start to roll in with. JP Alfonso 59.3, Jose Puig 58.9, but look at this, JP Alfonso with a huge off in turn 1.
Yeah, that is not the place you want to go off, because not only is the track bumpy, grass surrounding the track is very bumpy. There's actually a really, really gnarly ditch there by that service road there between 1 and 2. So he's lucky he kind of dodged a bullet there, but that's certainly not going to help his case to stay in second place. See Jose, Sorensen, and Ott continuing to get themselves close and bring themselves closer to Alfonso. And the interesting thing here is Alfonso and Ott are the only cars in the top 5 that have new tires.
You're right. You know, they do, but something else to notice, Jose Puig might be the chink in the chain for Nick Sorensen's podium run. This car was very fast earlier, has a little bit of damage that I think is holding back its ultimate pace. Same thing with JP Alfonso. Trevor, correct me if I'm wrong here, but JP Alfonso really seemed to be the fastest car of the field pre-damage. And then once really, I'd say Alfonso and Puig got this damage, they've seemed a little bit handicapped. They haven't really been able to unleash the full speed, and that might be what ends up holding back Nick Sorensen, is just a little bit of a handicapped car, but a really fast driver.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, you're right. I mean, ironically enough, and well, unsurprisingly, I should say, the top 3 are also the top 3 in order of the fastest laps of the race, with them all being really, really close together. I mean, we're talking the top 3 are separated by a 10th and a half in terms of fastest lap. One thing I'd like to point out is we haven't seen Sorensen go off track yet. We've seen Jose go off track. We've seen Alfonso just throw it off track last lap. So there is a possibility here that as these guys get closer and the racing starts to get a little hotter, a little dicier, it could be the cooler head and the slower driver that prevails here.
It's 10 minutes remaining here out of this 60-minute race at Sebring with these GT3 cars for the JP Alfonso GT3 series presented here on Maconi Entertainment. We're looking at Nick Sorensen on the screen right now, trying to hunt down Jose Puig in that red and black Ferrari that you see for the final podium spot, but it really is a battle between Alfonso, Puig, Sorensen, and Ott for that final podium spot. Who's it going to be? I think ultimately this accordion will end up getting condensed down as the time runs out of this race here. And something else to notice here, the tire difference might play a little bit of an effect, but you're right, Trevor. Jose Puig made a little bit of a mistake. JP Alfonso has made a little bit of a mistake. Nick Sorensen has not made any mistakes. If this battle does condense, will the cooler heads prevail, or will the red mist come out again?
That'll be interesting to see, but you know, the perfect storm is developing here. Last laps from Alfonso, 59.5. Jose Puig, 58.9, 0.6 better, and Sorensen right there at a 59 flat. So Jose, Sorensen, and Ott are catching Alfonso roughly 4/10 to half second a lap.
They are, and even that lap right there, Jose Puig 58.5, JP Alfonso 59.1. That's another 6/10 taken out of that gap there, as we see the red and black Ferrari maybe start to find its rhythm a little bit more. And something else I'm seeing on the screen, Trevor, looks like a lapped car is now in front of this battle. I know that Porsche has been out there a little bit, but I don't know if it's on pace with these leaders or not.
3.5 to 4 seconds off pace. Looks to be Connor Webb, and I know he got a talking to from the race director by getting himself in front of Alfonso there before the last round of pit stops. So you would expect him to do better to get out of the way and be sensible with these faster cars coming through to put him a lap down. For the show side of it, you kind of hope he gets in the way, and we have a four-way battle here for P2 in the closing minutes of the race.
Well, you know, he doesn't even have to get in the way, and he can cause things to condense a little bit, as he's doing right now. He's not doing anything wrong, but it's going to be too wide, and it's really going to hold up JP Alfonso here. It's going to let Jose Puig close in this gap, but, you know, kind of fair racing. He takes it too wide with Puig as well, and kind of stays stagnant between the Porsche and Ferrari.
Yeah, you love to see it, but you hate to see it. But hopefully Sorensen here close up some time. He gets really nice, easy path around Connor Webb, and that keep things a little bit interesting here. But certainly Jose and Alfonso are going to be a scrap here at the end. And you know, like I said, I've a little feeling that Sorensen's going to get himself a trophy today if that scrap is as hot as it was earlier in the race.
Yes, I know that Jose Puig likes to be an aggressive driver, as JP Alfonso once again runs two tires out into the dirt out there at the exit of turn one. That's just kind of like showing that red Ferrari, hey, I'm struggling a little bit, and it's just salivating back there in that red Ferrari driver's seat right now. Just say, hey, one or two more mistakes, and I can start to make some of these really late lunges that we saw out of the Ferrari earlier in the race when he was trying to get by that number 47 Kyle Edgar car. And Trevor, it certainly seems like this battle has now condensed, and Jose might be able to make a lunge, as it looks like Nick Sorensen is going to get by that Connor Webb car. Connor Webb is still battling it out, kind of side by side. Oh, no!
Right in front of him.
Whew. Luckily,
that was close.
Yes, luckily he did not make contact with Nick Sorensen. That was just had the car too far driver's right going into the brake zone, and it hooked around on him. Thankfully, it did not collect that number 20 car. Gonna get a replay here, and looks like, Trevor, wouldn't you just say this was right side tires on the grass and the brakes?
Oh yeah, certainly looks like it. Yep, that's exactly what it was. He was in the dirt, in the grass, and applied the brakes. And as we know, there's not nearly as much grip on grass as there is on 75-year-old concrete. So yeah, just terrible mistake there. Glad that it didn't have any effect on the front runners.
I want to keep the camera right here, but let everybody know that nothing's changed up front. Juan Salazar continues to lead this race, and actually looked like JP Alfonso got a really poor run out of the exit of turn 17 that lap. That's going to allow Jose Puig to close in even more here. Seen a few mistakes out of the exit of the Porsche on turn one. Keeps it together this lap, and another car to note, Daniel Ott in that Audi slowly but surely closing in on the Porsche of Sorensen behind.
Absolutely. Looks like we've got a slow car maybe out of 5. Yep. Another FAF Porsche, man. They're not having a great day to our GTD Pro champions. But certainly, guys, we've got another two-way battle here into 7 side by side. Really hard place to pass a like-classed car here, but Jose's going to hang on to it. Might get the job done here. It's on his quarter, not yet clear. Right line through, still side by side going into 9. Not willing to give up. Alfonso's still there on the charge. Still side by side. A bobble, but no contact. That inside line there prevails coming into 11, but they are still side by side, looking at 13 now, going through the tower turn.
Yeah, this is some great racing. They've been side by side for half the track. It looks like they're going to continue to be side by side, but I would assume the Ferrari is going to carry the momentum, and that's going to promote the number 8 Jose Puig up to second place around JP Alfonso with only 3 minutes left here at Sebring International Raceway. And judging by the pace of that Ferrari, I would expect to leave that Porsche in the dust as long as he hits his marks. And JP Alfonso just needs to keep it together for another 2 laps out there right now, because if he misses his marks and makes a mistake, look what's right there. This is Nick Sorensen and Daniel Ott doing everything they can to try to crawl their way back up to this battle to fight for the podium. But the Audi looks like it might have a little bit more pace right now, and Daniel Ott is starting to apply pressure on the back of this Porsche that Nick Sorensen really hasn't had all race.
Yeah, well, he should be, because Ott's tires are about 20 minutes newer than Sorensen, so he's got a market advantage there. As we see ahead of them, Jose is really showing his dominance there. Sector 1 was his strong sector, and you can see him just pulling away from Alfonso. The question is here now, Sorensen and Ott are about a second to a second and a half behind Alfonso as we go 2 wide into 7. And really hard to make that outside pass there on a like-class car in 7. But he still applies the pressure here. Are we going to see multiple turn side-by-side battle like we did last lap?
It certainly seems like the Porsche is very good on the power down coming out of the corner, but the Audi is aggressive going in, and it looks like they are going to be side-by-side. The Porsche has the commanding line in terms of the preference here for this right-hander. Daniel Ott's going to have to tuck back in line, but it gets a great run. This might allow him, he's going to look driver's right, take the long way around the sweeping left-hander, but it'll put him in a good position to maybe make a late lunge on the brakes here. The Audi's going to take a side-by-side with Sorensen for 4th place. He's going to clear him going into turn 16. This is going to be Daniel Ott up to 4th place, but Nick Sorensen says, not so fast. I'm going to get a run out of the back straight, draft you, and take it up the inside.
Yeah, this is good stuff. We've had great side-by-side battle from multiple corners now, from 2 pair out of our top 5 as we go in 17, way wide from Ott. If that were real life, he would have a hell of a vibration here. Sounds like we've got about 1 to go.
But look at that over-under.
Right back underneath that Porsche, yeah, but we're going side-by-side through 1. And back in line, unfortunately.
Looks like the Audi did clear them going into turn 1 there. That's going to promote Daniel Ott up to 4th place. The only unfortunate thing is I think this battle didn't leave enough time to hunt down that 3rd place JP Alfonso car for the final podium spot, but Daniel Ott, incredible drive in that Audi to get by Nick Sorensen really on the closing laps, but I don't think that Nick Sorensen wants this battle to go anywhere. He's still staying tucked in the slipstream, and actually right behind him have another battle on track between Kevin Ayers, Stephen Knight, and Kerry Cantera, looks like.
Well, that last pass that we saw Ott on Sorensen was not for 4th. It was for 3rd. Say Puig found himself in pit lane that time by. I'm not sure what issue he had, but he's down in 7th place, and Ott is in the final podium position with Sorensen right on his bumper. Final lap here. They're coming to the checker. There's no reason for Sorensen to leave anything on the table here.
No, and he's tucked up right behind that Audi of Daniel Ott. We had been watching Kevin Ayers and Stephen Knight. Those were those 2 black and green Mercedes, but I want to keep the camera right here. This is Sorensen and Ayers fighting it out for the final podium position. The run through turn 16 is so crucial right here. Looks like the Audi hits his marks like he needs to.
He got a little wiggle there on power down from the Audi. This could be it. Nice run down the back straight.
He is, yeah, looks like Sorensen's got a great run. He's going to fade drivers left. Is he going to do the old over-under? They both lunge it deep into turn 17. The Audi stays tucked up on the inside. The momentum goes to the Porsche on the outside. Who's going to take it to the line? It's going to be side by side Daniel Ott. Oh my goodness, only by a couple hundredths of a second is going to be on the podium over Nick Sorensen.
Wow, that was incredible.
8/1000ths of a second, Trevor.
I was just going to say that. 8/1000ths of a second.
I think that is the closest finish I've ever seen. I know that we're still having some cars finish the race right now as they're all kind of coming down through start finish. Our leader, Juan Salazar, did end up finishing the race. I know that we did not cover him crossing start finish because we were so busy watching that battle. I do want to give our shout out congratulations to Juan Salazar, and we'll be right back after this short break with our results and our podium interviews. Welcome back to the JP Alfonso GT3 series presented by Maconi Entertainment. We're here finishing up our 60-minute race at Sebring International Raceway, where ultimately it was the number 1 car of Juan Salazar in that Ferrari, taking home the checkered flag with a commanding 16-second lead over the number 996 Porsche of JP Alfonso. Great run from JP Alfonso, fending off quite a few challengers. Daniel there in the 3rd place Audi. Congratulations to him on that podium run, taking away that 3rd spot in the final couple laps there from Nick Sorensen. Great run also from Nick in the 20 car. Kevin Ayers in the top 5. Stephen Knight, Kerry Cantera, Alan Brose, Mark Royce, and Kyle Edgar there in the top 10. Trevor?
We've got Eric Bergdorf in the 11th position, Arvin Sadeghi on Barry, Jose Puga, a very early front runner, all the way back in 14th. Possible miscalculation on fuel load there. Keith Frazier, William Kaiser, Justin Knapp, Connor Webb, Jason Hurdle, and Philip Forrester round out your top 20.
Yeah, and then a couple cars had quite a few problems early on. Don York and Brady Cox back there. And none of this would be possible without our sponsors, JP Alfonso Studios. If you guys are interested in getting some work done, head on over to www.jpalfonsostudios.com for all of their recent work and booking, and get yourself inked up over there, especially if you are in the Georgia area. Also, special shout out to Hot Rod Setups and Tam Livery for letting us do all of this, and Maconi Entertainment. And right now, it looks like we do have our winner, Juan Salazar, standing by here in the commentary booth to join us. Juan, congratulations on the race win tonight here at Sebring. Take us through the race in your eyes. It looked pretty boring after the first pit stop.
Yeah, listen, I was sweating before the race. Both Jose and JP were way faster than me. They were the 2 fastest cars on track today. Right after that first lap, I passed Jose in the first turn right after the green light, and then I got the JP right after that. But then, just like last week, you know what I mean? A lot of the stuff that happened behind me kind of did it for me.
Yeah, well, I think that ultimately it was a little bit of contact between JP Alfonso and Jose Puch going into pit lane on the first pit stop that caused damage to both of their cars, which ultimately opened the door for you. But I don't want to take away the great drive that you had, Juan. You didn't put a mistake wrong out there all race, and you really did a great job handling some of that lap traffic, which I know wasn't easy at times.
Yeah, thank you. That was, listen, if all I have to do is just deal with lap traffic, I think I'm lucky. You know what I mean? I think the key in this whole tournament has been just get track position at the beginning of the race, and then let the guys fight it out behind me. You know what I mean? That's been the key, really.
Yeah, there was quite a few battles out on the racetrack, and I want to ask you one more question before we let you go. In the first stint there, it really seemed like it was a battle between the 3 cars, the 2 Ferraris plus the Porsche. When we talk about GT3 racing, have you seen any BOP difference out there, or are you thinking that all of these cars are pretty even from the racing that you experienced tonight?
Listen, I think the cars are pretty even. I think the Porsche and the Ferrari and the Beamer probably are the better cars. I haven't driven the Benz in a long time, or the Lambo. You know what I mean? I was behind the Lambo today. I think it was Kerry Cantera that was in front of me, and he was doing a pretty good job staying in front of me. I didn't want to fight him because that wasn't really my race, but he was going pretty fast. I don't think the BOP really is as much of a factor as some people might think.
Gotcha. Well, congratulations on the race win tonight, Juan. Before I let you go, is there anybody that you want to give a shout out to or say thank you to that helps get it done out there on the racetrack for you?
Oh, for sure. Donnie, thank you for the awesome setup. Again, really appreciate that. Jose and JP for keeping me on my toes. And you guys, Maconi Entertainment, doing a great job. Really love watching the replay, so thank you so much.
Well, make sure to go back and check out the replay of tonight's action because it was a great race. And Once again, that was Juan Salazar taking home the checkered flag with the race win at Sebring International Raceway. And we have Trevor now standing by with our second place finisher, JP Alfonso.
AP, man, tough luck there entering the first pit stop. Can you talk us through that? Because that seemed to be the deciding moment of the race for you.
Yeah, definitely. I wasn't really paying attention. I was trying to uncheck the tires. I completely forgot to do that right at the beginning of the when I was, in the grid. So I was trying to drive with one hand, uncheck the tires with the other hand, and try not to lose pit speed in the process. And the car, I tried to stop it. It was already too late. I got Jose right in front of me, and I hate him. So yeah.
I don't feel too bad, man. We see that stuff in IMSA in the real world all the time from guys who make careers out of doing this, and certainly don't have to contend with a mouse and a click to get their pit stops right. That's what guys like us are for. But yeah, I mean, it really looked like you had some great pace, and we were set up for a great battle between you, Juan, and Jose up front. I mean, it was really nobody else's game but the three of you. How bad was your car after the incident? It seemed like your pace had dropped off just enough to be annoying.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, we knew at the beginning that we were going with the only fuel strategy, because I figured with the pace that I have, it should have been enough to come up, on the second stop ahead of everybody. And definitely with the damage, I didn't realize how much damage I had until my spotter, told me, like, I think you're missing the hood or something. But definitely that put the whole strategy out of whack. I was losing to a second to a second and a half per lap, and yeah, I mean, definitely threw everything out of balance.
I think you're right. Daniel Ott, who got P3 behind you, was also on that late tire stop strategy, and that paid off. Beat Nick Sorensen to the line by 8 1,000ths of a second. So I think you were barking up the right tree. And as a professional spotter myself, I'm happy to hear that you've got one in the virtual world out there, man. Can you tell everybody who maybe isn't familiar with them how much of a difference that makes for you in the driver's seat?
I mean, definitely, having another set of eyes, it kind of gives you a better understanding and what's going on around you. Definitely, this is not a track that you can afford to take your eyes away from the track to look at the, all the information around you on the screens and things like that. So definitely, if you have to have a spotter, this is the track to have.
That's something I touched on in the pre-race. What we do is we'll rent 50-foot scissor lifts and put them at turn one, and that's what all the spotters will use, because you get that high up there with Sebring being dead flat, you can see about 60% of the track up there. So it really is helpful in the real world as it is in the virtual world.
Yeah, definitely. This is one of the hottest tracks that we have on the calendar. I would say this one and Imola. In this one, I mean, just the change in surface, the car behaved completely different from one sector to the next. Towards the end of the race, the car was feeling completely loose in turn one, and it was very hard to keep it balanced. I actually went off track 2 times, and one of those times I don't even know how I managed to bring the car back to the track. So yeah, this is one of those tracks that definitely practice lots of training. Definitely the spotter, it can definitely help you in the long run.
Yeah, well, look, man, we wish you well. You got one round here left at Montreal Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. And, we'd love to see you add your helmet and name to the winner column in the league schedule. So pulling for you, man. Really glad to talk to you, and really nice drive. Mistakes aside, you made lemonade with the lemons you were given today and came home nice second place.
No, definitely. I'm actually happy with the end result. Besides all the things that went wrong. So yeah, definitely. Thank you to you guys, and hopefully see you guys on the next one.
Oh, we'll be there, man. Thank you again. We've got our final podium finisher, Daniel Ott, taking that position by 8 1,000ths of a second from Nick Sorensen. I think he's with Joey now.
Yeah, I've got Daniel Ott, the driver of that Audi, and talk to me there. Were you sticking your hand out the window with the paddle to try to hold off that Porsche going to start finish?
Oh, I was pushing that pedal through the floor, just trying to get every little bit I could.
It was a great battle between you and Nick Sorensen, really, for the final 2 or 3 laps out there. Talk us through that and where you felt that you needed to make the move or where you felt your car was stronger.
I felt like I was a little bit better coming out of the final corner, so I tried to make it happen there, but I kept getting a bad run heading to the final corner, so that wasn't helping.
Also, one thing that we noticed, Daniel, sorry to interrupt you there. Did the new tires seem to help you at all with that hunt down with Nick?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I was running a couple of tenths faster on the new tires, so. And then once I finally got draft, I caught him pretty quickly.
Yeah, no, and then, like I said, sorry to interrupt you there. Talk us through that last battle there, the last couple laps, and how you ultimately got around him.
Well, I think that lapper spinning, got me within, striking range there. Fortunate that slowed him down, but it definitely helped me out. But yeah, it was just chasing him basically the whole race.
And also, talk me through, it looked like you guys went back and forth a little bit on the lap prior to the last lap, and it looked like you barely hung on to the car. I forget which turn number it is, but got pretty wicked loose out there and just barely hung on to that thing, but ultimately were still able to battle Nick.
Yeah, last lap, second to last corner, I almost crashed. I was like, this is it. I'm going to hit that wall, but I saved it and was able to still hold him off through that last corner.
Looking at some of the future tracks, I know that maybe Long Beach, Circuitville, New, Roval, they're all up there on the schedule. How do you feel about your speed from here at Sebring in comparison to the future tracks that you're going to be going to?
I'm not too great at Canada. I like the Roval and Long Beach, though. Hopefully do pretty good at Long Beach.
Well, we'll certainly be looking for that Audi to be up front in the remaining races here on this JP Alfonso GT3 series. Before we let you go, Daniel, is there anybody that you want to say thank you to or give a shout out to that helps you out?
Hey, shout out Mark Royce, Eric Burdoff, and Keith Frazier. Hanging out with me in Discord, talking us through the race, calling out incidents so we know what's coming up and all that. But thanks to those guys. Thanks for you guys for putting on this broadcast. It's fun to watch after.
Awesome to hear so many people with spotters. I know that warms Trevor's heart here in the booth, Daniel. And yeah, keep that Audi up front and go back, watch that broadcast because 8/1000ths of a second you got that final podium spot. Congratulations.
Yep, thank you guys.
And it looks like we do have a few more interviews that are lined up and waiting for us. And Trevor is going to be talking to Nick Sorensen, which was on the losing end of that 8/1000ths of a second difference between him and that Audi.
We probably don't have to tell you how quickly 8/1000ths of a second goes by, because I have a sinking feeling you already know. But man, you did a really nice job there, and not giving up once Daniel got around you, just to keep the battle going, and right to the line. You were fighting straight through. Just talk us through what was going through your head those last couple laps once the 62 got in front of you.
Yeah, I was just trying to keep it as consistent as possible there. I saw Daniel come in. He's just closing the gap slowly and steadily, and had to defend a few times. And then we had a quick back and forth, really clean racing, fun, hard racing. And then that last lap, my only shot was to try and take it around the outside of Sunset. We ended up with a drag race at the end, and he got it. I couldn't tell who won when we crossed, so it was a great finish, though, between us.
That certainly was. We couldn't tell either. We had to resort to our timing and scoring screens because it was just entirely too close to tell. I don't think any Sebring race has ever finished that close, the official ones at least. So really nice job. You were, along with Juan Salazar, who won the race, you guys opted for the tire change early. Talk us through how your tire fall off was after the second pit stop.
It wasn't. Tires fell off, so I could definitely tell a difference going in turn one, Sunset, where I was really having to bring my brake marking back and really work to keep the car in the turn. So yeah, they did fall off. Kind of new to this format, so I just figured I would take tires first and then run the 40-minute sprint race just like I do in officials. So that was my strategy, and maybe I'll learn from it. Maybe take a different one next time.
Absolutely. I mean, it's always a learning process, even if you've been doing it for 20 years. And you weren't alone. Like I said, the winner opted for the same strategy as well as Kevin Ayers. P6, P7, P8. You go all the way down back to P13. They were all in that same strategy. So, it was 6 one way, half dozen the other. I think with everybody picking the race up into 3 20-minute races effectively with the pit stops. You had to take one path or the other for the tire change that was mandatory, and I don't think it was a right way to do it necessarily given the mix in the top 5, but really nice job. I made a comment about your livery about midway through the race. What was your inspiration for the blue plaid?
It's just a random livery I picked. I always see the red plaid on the real cars, and
right.
I just switched it up to the blue. So
Faf themselves switched it up to the blue for one Petit Le Mans a couple of years ago. So there was a one-off blue plaid livery from those guys. So that was why I was suspect. I was like, you see the red ones, and those are great. That's their signature. But the blue doesn't come out that often because they, like I said, they only did it for one race. But it was cool to see a little variant to that, and I just didn't know if you were hearkening back to those guys, giving them a little nod.
No, I was just switching it up because you always see the red.
Right on. Atta boy. Well, good luck to you here at the next round at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal. Hopefully you're not afraid of tunnels and concrete walls that are right next to the racetrack.
No, yeah, it'll be great. Like I said, new in this league, and thanks to the guys for inviting me and letting me come out and drive. Like the format and good time in the week. So hopefully do well again. Thanks.
Yeah, excellent drive. Do you have anybody you want to thank? Any sponsors as we close out here with you?
No sponsors. Just thank you to Don for inviting me to the league and giving me some info. And thanks to everybody else. Good, clean, hard racing. It's a great time.
Done, man. Keep driving like you're driving. You'll get a couple sponsors with you.
Thanks.
And it looks like we have our final interview of the night. Kevin Ayers, P5, was licking his lips there at the Ott Sorensen battle. Had a great front row seat, and I believe he's with Joey now.
Yeah, Kevin's joining me here, and Kevin, it looked like you and Stephen Knight were really glued at the bumper the entire race, but it was strategy that got you guys up to the front and ultimately a top 5 finish. Take us through the race in your eyes.
Yeah, I started in the back with my qualifying, and we were just trying to pick off spots as they came to us. We're teammates, so we just kind of stuck together, weren't fighting each other, and were able to pick them off one at a time and weaseled our way up to 5th and 6th.
I was noticing that you and Steven were running pretty close the entire time without a lot of aggression there, and there's a couple times that, it looked like there was only a quarter of a second, but you're right, you guys worked so well as teammates. Talk to me about the prep of the event. How many laps or how many sessions did you guys do together to be able to run comfortably like that?
We have actually been teammates for about 2 years now, and so Sebring, we've run quite a bit. I couldn't tell you how many laps we have ran at Sebring together, and we are pretty dead even on our lap time. So, I mean, we knew we could run that for an hour side by side, so.
That's awesome to hear, and actually looking at all of these lap times and whatnot, yeah, your fast lap 158.87, Steven's fast lap 158.84, so pretty identical if you ask me. And one other question I have for you, with the plethora of car choices here in GT3, why did you choose the Mercedes? Does it suit your style the best, or what was the reasoning for that one?
Yeah, I like the honestly, the sound is my favorite part in the sim for the Mercedes, and it just suits my driving style. I like the rear-wheel drive, front engine, pull of the vehicle. That's what calls to me.
One of the reasons I mentioned it is because you are the highest finishing Mercedes in the field. It was really kind of Porsches and Ferraris that were dominating the front, so always good to see that Mercedes make its way into the top 5.
Yeah, we're gonna keep representing the Mercedes. We like it. It's got a little bit of a bop that not crazy about, but I love the car too much to give up on it.
Well, good to see you out there, and good to see you racing that car. Hopefully we'll see you at the future events here. Before we let you go, is there anybody that you want to say hi to out there that helps you get it done?
I just want to say thanks to the Get 'em Racing boys. We got a good team over there, and stick together.
Yeah, that's awesome, and we hope to see more, hopefully, podium finishes out of you in the future, Kevin. Congratulations on the top 5 run tonight. There is one more person that I do want to pull into the booth here. That is referred to as Don York, I believe, and he really is one of the main guys behind this series and the Hot Rod Setup Shops. Don, happy to have you here in the booth.
Oh, I'm glad I could join you.
Yeah, well, I noticed that you guys are changing up a few things in some of the final rounds here and wanted to let you talk about it to everybody.
Well, so like next week's Montreal race is gonna go from day into dark. I know tonight we kind of had the sunset was coming down with about 15 minutes to go, and that was more just so the track temps were low and we could get some really fast laps and guys could really battle hard towards the end, which we seen there for the battle for 4th, and that was a really awesome battle between those guys. And the week after that, Long Beach, we're gonna do something I don't think I've ever seen any GT3 league do ever. We're gonna run heat races. We're gonna bring some short track stuff over to the road course stuff and run some heat races with a shortened feature, if you would. There's not going to be any pit stops that race. It's just going to be a straight sprint race and no one stop tire pit stops and all that. So we're looking forward to it. I hope it works out the way that my vision is working towards.
Well, if you play GTA at all, it has one of those semis with a wedge on the front. You might need it to clean the racetrack after lap 1 there at Long Beach if we're doing heat racing.
Yeah. The guys did really good tonight. I mean, we had a couple issues with some of the lap cars, which is just growing pains with guys that don't really normally run at some of the longer races, right? Like the fixed Ferrari races are only 15 minutes. You don't really get into lap traffic much. So you run these 1 hour races and you throw the strategy of 2 pit stops and one having to be for tires. And it really throws a curveball to some of the rookies or the least experienced guys that are racing. So I'm hoping by Long Beach we can, even by next week, we can get some of the lap traffic cleared up a bit and get some of the dive bombs and some of the aggressive moves kind of worked out where guys aren't doing them. And I'm really looking forward to Montreal next week, and I'm hoping, fingers crossed, a Canadian boy can actually be up front and running. Kyle Edgar did an awesome job tonight. He was right up to the front there till him and Jose Puig got into it, and so hoping Montreal is that breakout marker that we can steal it away from the Spaniards.
Well, I tell you what, I love all the action that you guys are putting out on the racetrack, especially with this GT3 series. It's a ton of fun to watch. It's a ton of fun to broadcast, and yeah, we're just happy to have you here on the channel. And before we let you go, Donnie, is there anybody that you want to give a shout out to?
Aside from the Hot Rod Setup Shops, obviously, I've got a couple guys back at the virtual shop, if you would. They work hard trying to get together. It's like we build 8 setups a week for just the GT3 alone, and we fine-tune to each driver. Everybody that's in the league, they get a free setup that comes with their entry, and they give us feedback, so we tweak on it a bit. Like JP and I, this week alone, we put in at least 8 hours just tweaking on JP, and same with John Barry and Arvin. and Juan and Jose. Juan and Jose are the two top hot rod setup shop drivers for the Ferraris, and they put a ton of time in trying to make sure they're doing great. There's JP Alfonso Studios. Without JP, a lot of this wouldn't happen. He puts up a lot of time, puts up a lot of his own money. Maconi Entertainment, Jeff and I come to an agreement. It's working out really great. The broadcasters, you guys are killing it. I don't think I've seen as much exciting GT3 racing ever watching Twitch or YouTube or Facebook. It's just everything's coming together right the way that it needs to, and I can't be happier at the fact that it's all happening. And you know what? All the fans that are watching, because without you guys watching, we're just doing this to make ourselves feel better. And it's trying to entertain you guys, and we're trying to bring the most entertaining product that we can.
You're doing a great job, Donnie, and like I said, we're thrilled here at Maconi Entertainment to have you on board with this GT3 series and everything that you do. And we look forward to seeing you at the future races here with this JP Alfonso Studios, or JP Alfonso GT3 series, and everything that you do, Donnie. Trevor, now we're going to wrap up here. Do you have any final thoughts before we sign off?
And I wish more of these races could be like that. We obviously didn't have much excitement for the P1 position, but we had one battle there for P2. That fizzled away. We just scrolled back one car and had a great battle for third. And if this race lasted a couple more laps, it wasn't too far back, just another car to see another close battle there between Ayers and Knight. And I don't think Cantera was too far off. So yeah, it was really good. There was something to talk about other than ourselves, because there was just action going on lap after lap after lap. I enjoyed it. I think he's on the right track. Got a good product here because these guys are collectively coming together and putting on a great show. And when you have finishes for the last podium position 8 thousandths of a second apart, it's pretty incredible. So I really enjoyed that.
Right, you are, Trevor. And for everybody that's interested in getting in on any of these leagues, go on over to MaconiSetupShop.com, Maconi Entertainment, and check out all of our future events. We're pretty packed full here in December, thanks to the Ignite Racing League Hot Rod Series, as well as Fast Fridays and this GT3 series. So if you're curious on any future action, make sure to go check out everything that Maconi has to offer. We thank tonight's race sponsor, JP Alfonso, as well as our broadcast partners here at Maconi Entertainment. Calling all the action tonight was myself, Joey Adbury, alongside professional strategist and spotter Trevor McClure in the booth, with Joe White producing. As always, we would like to thank all of our viewers for tuning in to tonight's racing action. We hope to see you on the first for the Ignite Racing League Hot Rod Setups Cup Series at Nashville Fairgrounds. Until then, stay tuned to the Maconi Entertainment social media pages for upcoming broadcasts. A special shout out, of course, goes to the entire staff for their work in bringing this racing action to you, and hope to see you at our next event. This has been a production of Maconi Entertainment, and we wish you all a good night.